Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cycling World, your home for pure racing, big attacks, and the stories that shape the peloton. Before we dive into what we witnessed on Jebel Hafeet, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Because what happened today at the UAE Tour 2026 was not just another stage win, it was a statement, a coming-of-age performance from a rider ready to take over the spotlight. Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, delivered a ride that will be talked about for a long time. Stage 6, 168 kilometres from Al Ain to the brutal slopes of Jebel Hafeet, was always going to decide the general classification. Everyone in the peloton knew it. The climb averages 6.9%, with long, grinding sections above 8%, the kind of ascent where champions rise and contenders crack. And today, Del Toro rose to the occasion in spectacular fashion. Not only did he win the Queen stage, he ripped the leader's jersey off Antonio Tiberi's shoulders with a perfectly timed attack that left no room for doubt. Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, rode with maturity beyond his years, controlling his effort, reading his rivals, and striking when it mattered most. This was not a lucky move, not a chaotic sprint, but a calculated demolition job on one of the UAE Tour's most iconic climbs. As Del Toro powered to the line solo, we also witnessed a shocking collapse from Remco Evenepoel and a disappointing day for Movistar team, who simply had no answer when the road tilted upwards. Today felt like a shift in the balance of power. A new climber has arrived at the very top level, and his name is Isaac Del Toro. From the very start in Al Ain, the stage was raced full gas. Everyone knew this was the decisive day, so there was no easing into it, no calm before the storm. The breakaway went almost immediately, with Enzo Poleni and Cole Kessler among the first to roll the dice. They built a small gap of around 40 seconds, but the peloton never let them out of sight. UAE Team Emirates and Bahrain Victorious took responsibility at the front, setting a steady but demanding tempo to protect their leaders and keep the race under control. As the kilometres ticked by, more riders bridged across to the move. Stefan Bissegger, Johan Jacobs, Joshua Tarling, Owain Doull, and Mattia Gafuri were part of a growing front group that managed to stretch the advantage to between 1 and 2 minutes. The average speed was consistently above 50 kilometres per hour, a clear sign that this was not a break being gifted the stage. It was a high-speed chess match, with every team thinking about positioning for the final climb. Behind the scenes, Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, stayed calm and perfectly placed. He never panicked, never wasted energy in unnecessary moves. Antonio Tiberi, wearing the leader's jersey, looked composed as well, surrounded by teammates who were fully aware that everything would come down to the final 10 kilometres. With 58 kilometres to go, the break still had around 1 minute and 25 seconds, but the bunch was steadily tightening the leash. At 50 kilometres from the finish, cracks began to show in the break, with Gafuri starting to struggle after hours in the wind. The message was clear: the early attackers had burned their matches. Meanwhile, the GC favourites began moving closer to the front, fighting for position before the decisive ascent. Evenepoel was already showing signs of discomfort, slightly out of position at times, while Movistar tried to reorganise after a nervous middle section. The tension was building, and everyone knew that once the road pointed uphill towards Jebel Hafeet, there would be nowhere left to hide. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. With 10 kilometres to go, the peloton hit the lower slopes of Jebel Hafeet, and the race instantly changed complexion. The breakaway was swept up just before the climb truly began, their adventure over as the general classification battle took centre stage. The gradient settled into that relentless 6.9% average, with exposed sections above 8%, a climb that does not forgive hesitation. Positioning was everything, and Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, was exactly where he needed to be, near the front, sheltered but alert. As the pace increased, the group of favourites quickly thinned out. With 7 kilometres remaining, only a select group was left at the head of the race: Del Toro, Antonio Tiberi, Harold Tejada, Felix Gall, and Lennart van Eetvelt. 5 riders, 1 mountain, 1 leader's jersey on the line. For a few moments they marked each other, nobody willing to commit too early. You could sense the tension, the calculation, the awareness that one wrong move could cost the race. That was when Del Toro decided to raise the tempo. Not an explosive attack at first, but a steady, punishing acceleration that forced everyone onto the limit. Tejada began to lose contact. Gall was rocking in the saddle. Van Eetvelt fought to hold the wheel. Tiberi stayed glued to Del Toro, determined to defend his overall lead. But then came the decisive move. Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, launched a sharp, perfectly timed acceleration that split the race apart. Tiberi tried to respond, out of the saddle, digging deep, but the Mexican had another gear. Within a few hundred meters, a gap opened. 2 kilometers from the summit, Del Toro had around 20 seconds in hand, enough to turn the virtual classification on its head. Behind him, Tiberi was all in, but the momentum had shifted. This was no longer just a stage battle, it was a takeover in progress. Inside the final kilometre, the stage turned into a one-man show. Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, was riding with incredible composure, high cadence, smooth upper body, no signs of panic, no wasted movement. The time gap kept stretching, second by second, as the camera panned back to a struggling Antonio Tiberi who simply could not close the distance. The Italian was empty, shoulders rocking, face twisted in effort, fully aware that the red jersey was slipping away on the slopes of Jebel Hafeet. Behind them, the rest of the GC contenders were scattered across the climb. Felix Gall and Lennart van Eetvelt were fighting damage limitation. Derek G was digging deep to stay within touching distance, but none of them could match the pace that Del Toro had set. And then there was the big shock of the day. Remco Evenepoel cracked. The Belgian star, expected to light up this climb, lost contact early in the decisive phase. He drifted backwards, unable to respond when the accelerations came. It was a rare and painful sight, Evenepoel on the limit, unable to impose himself. For Movistar team, it was also a day to forget, caught on the back foot and powerless when the race exploded. Adding to the drama, Ilan van Wilder went down in a crash during the climb, further disrupting the chase and ending any hopes of a late comeback. Up front, however, there was no drama for the leader on the road. Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, powered under the Flamme Rouge and never looked back. He did not sit up, he did not celebrate early, he kept the pressure on all the way to the line. When he finally crossed the finish alone, arms raised, it was the image of complete control. This was not just about winning a mountain stage. This was about taking ownership of the race and announcing himself as a genuine force in stage racing. With that victory on Jebel Hafeet, Isaac Del Toro did more than win the Queen stage. He effectively sealed the UAE Tour 2026. Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, now stands at the top of the general classification after ripping the leader's jersey away from Antonio Tiberi in emphatic fashion. The time gap he carved out on the climb was not marginal, it was decisive. And with the final stage set to be completely flat, the expectation is clear, this race is now his to lose. What makes this performance so impressive is not just the raw power, but the racecraft. Del Toro did not panic earlier in the stage. He did not waste energy in the crosswinds or chase unnecessary moves. He waited for the defining moment, trusted his legs, and delivered a textbook GC attack. Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, showed that he can handle pressure, that he can read a race like a seasoned pro, and that he has the climbing punch to drop elite contenders on a summit finish. Meanwhile, serious questions will be asked elsewhere. Remco Evenepoel's collapse on the final climb raises doubts about his condition at this point in the season. Movistar team leave this mountain stage with more frustration than answers, and riders like Gall, Van Eetvelt and G did what they could, but they were simply outclassed when it mattered most. The image that will define this edition of the UAE Tour is clear. Del Toro riding solo towards the summit, shoulders still, cadence high, confidence radiating from every pedal stroke. Isaac Del Toro, the heir to Tadej Pogacar on Jebel Hafeet, has moved from promising talent to proven contender. If he safely navigates the final flat stage, we are looking at a landmark overall victory. The question now is not whether he belongs at this level, but how far he can go from here.